It's the opening game of the basketball season for Kansas State, an exhibition showdown against Washburn for nearby Topeka, as we welcome you into our coverage of basketball here on Big 12 Now on ESPN+. Brian Smoller, Missy Heidrich, Kelsey Bigelow with you. Here is the Big 12 preseason poll. Kansas State in an unfamiliar spot in the lower half of the division after a tough year through COVID last year. We'll talk more about that coming up. The Wildcats look at a rebound behind superstar Ayoka Lee. And as these two teams head out to center court, your keys to victory, Missy Heidrich.
Well, for Washburn, it starts with defensive pressure. They're going to be undersized this afternoon, so you're going to have to pressure the Wildcats, see if you can limit those touches down low to Ayoka Lee. And they've got to knock down jumpers. You're going to have to hit open shots, open the floor, give yourself some penetration lanes. For the Kansas State Wildcats, Brian, it's all about execution and deliver. They've got to be better than last year, and you've got to get the ball to scores and energy and effort. This is a first time out, game situation. You want to see where that intensity is on both ends, who's going to make plays, who's going to assert themselves.
Yep, already Kansas State living life with just Ayoka Lee. Chrissy Carr moving on to Syracuse. Rachel Ranke banged up, not going to play. And so where does the other scoring punch come from for the Wildcats? You know teams will just collapse inside on the superstar center. A drive here by Everett results in the first foul of the ball game.
And we see a little spread offense, kind of 4 out, 1 in. And that's where this K-State team's going to have to be creative. But you've also got to deliver that basketball in sets to get easy buckets.
Glenn had a good look. Left it short in her first shot attempt. Part of the Glenn's twins that are from the Barstow School outside of Kansas City. Part of a heralded recruiting class for K-State. Just underway here from Bramlett's Coliseum. Happy Halloween to all of you. Feels weird to say that for basketball in the month of October, even if it is the last day of the month. Shea Sanchez. Senior transfer for the Ichabods. In it goes. Not sure that got off in time. And as K-State brings the ball up the court, we'll get a look at their starting five here in a moment. Deflection out by Shea Sanchez. There's the starting five for K-State. Ebert, Lee, and Goodrich all took turns starting last year. For the most part, veterans. And then the two freshmen part of this class, Glenn, we'll see her sister Briley a little bit later, and Sundell, who's taken over running the point. Lee, a little turnaround jumper gets the friendly roll.
And the double team comes from Washburn, and that's where Ayoka Lee is going to have to continue to be better this year. You got to identify that double team, know how to deal with it, feel the pressure. If it's not there, she's got to be able to kick it out.
Lee nearly with the steals. We look at the Ichabods starting five with a roster that is flux over 20. Rod McHenry's got certainly some options to pick from.
He's got 12 letter winners back, including all 5 starters really from last year. You added 7 newcomers, which are freshmen and transfers. That gives them a lot of options. But just like any team right now, trying to figure out their roster, what's going to work, what's not.
Sundell all the way to the basket, had that left-handed layup blocked. Hunter Bentley on the other end for Washburn, the leading scorer, 3-time All-MIAA. Found out life going against Lee's not that easy. So look at Sundell, who will bring some height to that point guard spot at 6'1". Great score from the Missouri prep ranks.
And in talking to Jeff Mittie about that point guard position, it is so important not only in non-conference but also into the Big 12 season. And for K-State, it could be a little bit big point guard by committee, but also some 2-guard lineup. And you're seeing that right now with Goodrich and Sundell out front. That's going to move Glenn over to that wing position. But again, this is about delivery. They got to understand to get the ball to Ayoka Lee where she can score and operate.
Seen Ichabod so far try to work it inside, even against Lee. The hope, of course, to try and get her into foul trouble. Here's Sanchez, transfer from Northeastern State. Tough matchup there against the taller Sundell, who gets the rebound off the miss. Goodrich in transition, trying to get that ball into Lee. Glenn thought about a long three-pointer. We'll let it fly. And it's off the back iron, put back up immediately, as followed by Goodrich, not there. And here come the Ichabods the other way. In transition, Sanchez, the first basket to tie the game.
And that's what Washburn's going to do. They're going to get misses. They want to go. They've got depth, obviously, with a lot of players over here on this bench. If they can get out and go, it's going to force Kansas State out of that half-court defense.
Lee called for a travel as she tried to turn. And a turnover by the Wildcats, so a little bit rusty here to get going.
And that's the double team, and that's exactly where she has to continue to get better. Something she worked on all season long. You saw it, they played that national 3-on-3 tournament that gave her some opportunities to really think about her game, to be quick, but to be decisive and smart. That's where she's going to be most effective. She's going to have to be smart with the basketball.
Rebecca Dollinger has checked in for the first time. The sophomore transfer from Miles Community College up in Montana, where she was the National Junior College Player of the Year and a two-time All-American. Sharpshooter that is from Australia. Number 14 on the screen at the top of the circle at the moment. And a double dribble there by Abby Oliver, a product out of nearby Wabaunsee High School. Sophomore who only played 13 games last year before getting injured. Back now for the Ichabods, hoping to help them build back after a tough season through COVID last year.
And I think everybody had that up and down, and you kind of rode the roller coaster of the COVID season. This Washburn team did it. They were 12-12 last year, played majority of those games in the MIAA. And we know Kansas State also had that ride the roller coaster of the COVID season. It changed so much. So both of these teams right now trying to say, well, I'm going to play a whole season. What is it going to look like? A lot of new faces and different lineups.
Everett trying to drive across the lane, called for lowering the shoulder. Offensive foul and another turnover by Kansas State.
But this is spread offense right now for this Kansas State team, Brian. It is really a 4-out, 1-in. They're looking for penetration lanes, but you've got to get some movement if you want to penetrate the basketball to the middle of the floor.
Well, with Ranke gone, injured at the moment, and Carr no longer with the program, the three-point shot will be an interesting weapon for K-State. Who will be the threat on the outside to open it up? Dollinger able to grab the rebound, finds Sundell. Lee, the crowd around her, and Everett called for a travel on the sideline. A couple of turnovers for her, and Jeff Mitty wasting no time, ripping out the rest of his starting lineup, bringing in 4 new players. There's a look at Jeff Mitty, 8th-year coach of the Wildcats, 2 wins shy of 580. In his 30th year of coaching overall. Arkansas State, TCU, and now here at Kansas State.
And this roster for Jeff Mitty and his staff does look different. I mean, you've got 8 returners, but also 6 newcomers, and they are at different positions. And now we've got a couple players banged up on that Kansas State bench. And so this start of the season in these exhibition games is going to be kind of a chess match. You've got to move players around, see what works and what doesn't.
Lauterbach forces Maya Johnson into a bad shot. K-State gets the ball, and they'll bring it up the court. You have Jada Moore in there, Lauterbach, Laura Mackey in for the first time, Goodrich returning. Here's Goodrich on the drive and a left-hand scoop and score. And
Simone Goodrich becoming more confident here as she comes back for that super senior year. And I think the majority of that was her time in the 3-on-3 national tournament, but also just gaining that trust and confidence out front, finding a rhythm and being comfortable to handle the basketball.
Shot put up left side, missed.
And lack of block out there by Kansas State, and those are just some of those fundamental things. You've got to make those adjustments defensively. This K-State team going man right now, making a lot of switches out front. You've still got to stay matched up and box out.
Dollinger, let's go with 3. That won't follow. Rebound by K-State, however, they'll get a reset.
And a couple good, quick heads-up plays by Simone Goodrich, trying to settle things down here for this Kansas State offense, and that's the experience coming through out at that point guard position.
Yeah, quick break for her, then right back in. Seems to have been better back for K-State. Just ahead of the media timeout. A foul there on the drive by Jada Moore, who's really put in some good minutes for K-State in the early part of practice and had some really good scrimmages. Sophomore who played quite a bit last year as a freshman.
Yeah, she saw action in 20 games last year, but that improved efficiency, being able to put it on the floor and to create not only for herself, for her teammates, add a little bit of that 3-point shot, be a threat from the perimeter, that's going to be important. But this is consistency factor. That's exactly what these Kansas State guards have to be. They got to be consistent. They got to take advantage of scoring opportunities and be smart with the basketball.
Another offensive rebound by this Wildcat group. A little bit of cushion given for Goodrich. Moore waves her away, gives to Mackey. Newly engaged Laura Mackey. Turnaround jumper won't go. She follows her own shot. A reset for K-State. Lauterbach will take the long jumper and hit it.
Something she saw late in the season last year as a freshman, the ability to step out. But when you have that size and you can step away from the basket, it's an added bonus, creates a bit of matchup problem for opponents.
Johnson on a double team. Called for the offensive foul. Dollinger takes it, and that will send us to a timeout. Turnover by the Ichabods. Good defense by Dollinger underneath the hoop. We'll return on Big 12 Now on ESPN+.
Something good happen. We can't go backwards. We've got to take steps forwards. And coaches are then going to take these exhibition games. You're going to take the things that went well, build on that, look at the things on the films and what you noticed that did not go well and how do we improve. But this is the evolution. This is step one. You get out of the gate. We've gone through practice. You went through the warm-up, the whole thing. And now let's see how it looks out on the floor for 40 minutes.
Just showed a shot there of a young lady that's not unfamiliar with these surroundings. That's Emma Chapman, the transfer from K-State to Washburn. Who did not play last year, opted out of the COVID season, and then back a couple of years ago, 22 games in a reserve role for the Wildcats.
And getting some minutes here early, and that she brings a lot of length, the ability to get off the floor, can be an asset inside defensively. As we've said, Washburn undersized with Lauterbach and Lee, but they've got to be able to battle and take opportunities when they get it.
Goodrich going for the rebound, had it knocked out of bounds. Chapman and the Ichabods will get the ball back. Early going, a lot of turnovers as you would expect for this team. K-State doing a hockey line shift here, 5 for 5 coming into the game. Starters returning for the most part, except that the Glenn twins are now. But so you have 3 freshmen on the court for K-State with Ebert and Lee.
They're going to give some veteran leadership with Lee and Ebert and 3 new faces. And Jeff Minnie talked at the very beginning when he was at Big 12 Media Days that this team's got to take care of the basketball. They know that that is what plagued them last year, with so many lost opportunities, so many lost possessions. So one of the focuses, not only in practice, but in these exhibition games before you tip off regular season, is how do we be better with the ball?
Well, steal certainly helps on the defense. That makes things easier on the offensive end. Sundell picking one off in traffic, and it goes to Lee, facing a triple team. Turns and scores well away from the basket. Something that she's been working on in this offseason.
And she's got to be able to establish herself, whether it's on that low block or even up the lane a little bit as she did on that last possession, and call for it. That's where the delivery is so important.
Lee underneath the basket, able to grab it.
See a little bit more length right now in this Kansas State lineup with more size. You've got Sundell, the 2 Glenn twins, Emily Ebert. You've got more size out on the perimeter defensively. Gives you a chance to spread things out, and it is causing trouble for Washburn. They want to go a little bit 5 out and force action. They haven't been able to do that the last couple trips down.
All right, Ebert to the free throw line after the foul. That's the 5th foul already on Washburn, so it'll be free throws from here on in for K-State. The rest of this first quarter, 2.5 minutes or so remaining. Ebert's first free throw is good. K-State last year really did a great job at the free throw line, put forth one of the best combined season efforts under Jeff Mittie, shooting over 73% as a team from the line. Ebert, another one. Those were her first 2 points. Frankfurt, Kansas product. Last year averaged 6 points, 4 boards, 3.5 assists, and had 25 blocks. Really kind of an all-around player for K-State.
I think the key number also is almost 31 minutes a game, and that's where you see as that trust factor and having players with experience now coming back this year, and Emily Ebert fills that role. But the defender that makes the difference on that last possession is Ioka Lee, willing to step in and be in help side. You've got to keep the dribble out of the middle of the floor. But Lee, with that veteran mindset, cleans it up for the youngsters who let it get to the middle. You can't allow that dribble penetration. She can't be there to bail them out all the time. They've got to send it more to the baseline.
Well, a dangerous move, too, by Lee. You got to make sure you're going to get that call.
Absolutely.
A young lady like that, so important to K-State. Can't have her in foul trouble. Lee positioning herself down low, turns, shoots just a 2-bit strong, and a rebound by Bentley.
What you see early here with this Kansas State offense is that they are willing to get that ball inside. These possessions and touches at Ioka Lee, it's a good sign for this Wildcat offense.
Sundell will drive and score. Uses the right hand this time. First basket for Serena Sundell.
The Missouri All-State selection a year ago, Brian, you should 2,000-point scorer in high school. She's got the ability to put some numbers and fill up a stat sheet, but so much of it is going to be understanding where those opportunities present themselves.
Now, averaged 26 a game in the prep ranks last year. Missouri Player of the Year, Miss Missouri basketball. They are expecting big things from her, almost in a Kayla Goff type role at that point guard spot. Ebert from the free throw line. Lee just over the top of everyone. 6 points in the first quarter for Lee.
You talk about Ioka Lee on the backboard. We know that she can score, but she has been and will be a presence on the offensive glass for this Kansas State team. There were a few times last year she got herself in foul trouble trying to clean up some messes. That's where if this K-State team is better out on the perimeter, can knock down more jumpers, more three-point shots, mid-range opportunities, then she isn't necessarily as apt to want to go over the back or muscle yourself in for an offensive rebound.
Foul there on Jalen Glenn, freshman, top 50 player overall. As part of this recruiting class for K-State. Bentley working off a high screen. And a foul there as Everett was trying to climb past Macy Debley, and they're going to get Everett for the foul. You can tell Everett does not agree. That's her second. Yeah,
they're trying to get some possessions in the ball in the hands of Hunter Bentley, the top returning scorer for this Washburn team. She was a second-team all-conference selection a year ago, has been limited here so far in this first quarter. But Washburn knowing she's got to get some touches for them to stay within reach of this K-State Wildcat team.
Campbell, who hit a three earlier, and Lee with a physical rejection of a shot, but a foul called before then. 2 free throws coming up.
And that's the spread offense right now for the Ichabods, is that they're going to make this Kansas State team have to guard them from the perimeter. Now, want you to shadow shooters, not giving them a lot of room, but then again, it's just simply one-on-one. And that time, Ioka Lee not able to get by with the block and draws that foul.
See on the replay, Debley somewhat jumped into Lee. K-State's bench. Jeff Biddy was talking with the official, trying to argue his case that Debley had initiated the contact as opposed to Lee, but he won't get the benefit of that. So they hand over Wildcat. Debley makes the first of 2 free throws. Misses the second.
Fine line between who institutes contact and who takes contact. I think that's what we saw in that last possession.
Lee again getting great position, has it batted away from behind, but it'll stay with K-State.
And this Washburn team's been very active defensively. They have come on the double teams. You know that's where they've been drilled in their scouting report. Ball goes inside. We've got to be the double from both the inside, from the backside and the front. See if you can't get a tip on a pass. But that's where being active and putting pressure on these Kansas State guards makes a big difference.
Sundell tossed it all the way up top to Mackey, who showed some of that range behind the three-point line last year. Sundell driving a kick. Riley Glenn into the lane. Left-hander up off the glass. Lee fighting in traffic, and a foul committed by the Ichabods will send Lee to the free throw line for the first time.
She draws a lot of attention on that low block, and this Ichabod team just trying to move her out of the way, but that is one of the things Ioka Lee just does so well, is she gains position, establishes herself, and she's not going to give it up. Willing to work. She's got a knack for the basketball, wants to get to the offensive glass, not only clean things up for her teammates, but second chance opportunities for herself.
Lee makes the first. 7 in this first quarter for Lee, who also has 6 rebounds. Can't hit the second, but it's Mackey who gets the offensive rebound. She'll take the three-pointer and hit it.
Lauren Mackey able to step out. That gives you a whole nother presence from behind that three-point line. That swing forward, that step back from the three-point line for three, that three position makes a big difference for this Wildcat offense.
K-State out rebounding Washburn, as they should, with a huge height advantage, 16-5. 8 offensive rebounds. Mackey feeling confident. Free throw line jumper just off, but there's Lee to clean it up. Mackey another rebound. Well, McHenry not happy with that finish to the first quarter, as he saw his team give a couple of offensive boards. Still, an impressive opening stanza for the Wildcats after some early turnovers. Lee and company have a 9-point lead against the Ichabods from Topeka on Big 12 Now on ESPN+. Let's go to Kelsey Bigelow, third member of our crew, for more on the 3-on-3 tournament this last summer for K-State.
Thanks, Brian. Missy's alluded to it a couple times, but it was the 2021 Red Bull USA 3-on-3 tournament. It was Ioka Lee, Emily Eber, Simone Goodrich, and Rachel Rinke, and this is a tournament that head coach Jeff Mitty's talked all about. He says that it is one that has really helped this team grow, all 4 of those players and the entire team. He says you look at it and those ladies took full advantage of it. They took ownership of it, running their own scout sessions, own film sessions, and that's something that's going to help this entire team the rest of the season.
Thank you, Kelsey. You were there at Big 12 Media Days and heard Jeff Mittie talk about it. That 3-on-3 thing, almost like an extra practice during the summer.
Absolutely, and 3-on-3 is such a great game. I mean, it's great for young kids and it's great for college level players as well, because what it forces you to do is you have to be so much more active. Active without the basketball. You've got to think about screening and cutting. You can't stand, and it is such a good game to drill defensively as well. So I think all 4 of the women that played for that Kansas State team really are going to bring something different to the floor this year. Because what it does is it gives you another view of the game and things that they can think about and work on, and especially a player like Ioka Lee, when you have to go battle that possession after possession, one right after the other, it moves fast, you're always flowing, you're always going, that makes a big difference.
Lauterbach on to start this second quarter with Moore. Sundell, Goodrich, and Everett, who started the game, remain in. Sundell pushing tempo back the other way for K-State into the lane and gets the foul call.
Yeah, kind of gets bailed out. She really didn't have a lot, didn't really know where to go, but is pushing the pace of the ball game, which is what you like to see. But really not a lot of space to try to get in. The step through, draws contact, had a player open in the corner. But this K-State team, they've got to take advantage when they can. If they can get out in transition, that is another aspect of the game that we really didn't see from the Wildcats last year. When you think about their non-conference schedule and into the Big 12, they're going to have to force action at times against teams where they just are going to have to battle firepower.
Well, and the other part of this is Lauterbach and even Lee run the floor better than you might think for centers that are at 6'5", 6'6".
And willing to run the floor. That's a big difference as well. A lot of times on both the men's and the women's games, you're going to find some big post players that just aren't that keen about getting up and down. There'll be a trailer, they're a trailer 5, but if you can get touches or opportunities for your post and transition, that's another added weapon in your offense.
Sanchez unable to hit the jumper, another rebound for Moore.
We said it at the start that this Ichabod team is going to have to knock down jumpers. Sanchez got a great look, couldn't get it to go. Those are the ones that they want back.
Goodrich thought better of it on a follow shot than a foul on K-State as they go for the rebound.
We've had a lot of loose balls, a lot of long rebounds, and some missed bunnies and opportunities. This is the rust. This is what happens in exhibition. As we said, different lineups, different players at different positions, trying to make something happen. But so far, I think both the energy and effort by both of these teams has been good. We've seen them step in, take charges, be in help side, do the little things here. It's not the cleanest, but you're getting there. It's exhibition.
That's right.
On Halloween, so it could be a little spooky. I mean, you got to look at it that way.
Jada Moore tying up Hunter Bentley. K-State will get the possession. Turnover forced by Moore. There were flashes of Moore last year for K-State where you thought, boy, there's something here for the Wildcats that could be really good. Excited to see what a full year will do. A big tough COVID season as a freshman and had to battle through some injuries. Her own self got contact traced a couple of times. It's just difficult to build anything there. Lauterbach showing both the outside range and now the hook shot in the lane.
I think we'll see that out of really all freshmen, Brian, all across the country, as players who not only battle the COVID scenario, but you think about the time lost in preparation. You think about the practices or the individual practices that didn't happen a year ago in the fall and how different it was. It is about making that transition to the game. And if you have to sit out for a couple weeks here and there, making that jump from high school to college is more difficult. But they can establish themselves. So for a lot of programs across the country, you not only have returning freshmen, but you also have brand new faces. A lot of inexperience, but opportunity for growth.
Yep, well said. Sundell off her own foot, loses it out of bounds. And a turnover by K-State. Sundell learning the point guard position. Again, the Wildcats have gone to this sort of taller guard at the point here the last couple of years since Kayla Goff really took the league by storm in that position. Love the versatility of having a point guard that can distribute, rebound, and score.
Well, and you mentioned kind of the comparison, so to speak, of a player like Serena Sundell and Kayla Goth, who had such a great career at K-State and in the Big 12. But you not only have that length, but you do have them with a scorer's mentality. And that changes then how that position is not only run in their own offense, but how other teams are going to have to guard them. And that's going to make a big difference, I think, of what Jeff Mittie can do. You can kind of open the playbook a little bit. We think sometimes you got to keep it sort of vanilla, maybe only pages 1 and 2 for young kids out front. I think about that sometimes in football and quarterbacks. You don't give them the whole book, you just give them like the first few pages. Well, as the season goes on, you start to expand that, and there's more opportunity here for K-State to have more depth in what they do on the floor.
Now, both of these teams using a lot of depth here early on. K-State's played all 10 available so far in this contest. Johnson, nice up and under move against Lee, gets her first basket. Ichabods have played 11 already in this game.
And great body control by Johnson. She knew she didn't have it on the reverse, but came back the other way, and Ioka Lee out of position. She's able to finish.
Goodrich driving baseline, little teardrop shot won't fall. Ichabods trying to turn the tempo up the other way. Trailed by 9 at the end of 1. Johnson blocked by Lee, who just grabs the loose ball. Lee shattering block records for the Wildcats in her career and single season. Dollinger lets go a 3. That's just a bit long. One of those three-point shooters that if she gets in and locked in, can put up a lot of points in a hurry. Drive and a kick by Sanchez to no one and a turnover.
Well, so much of it for this Kansas State defense is about having a presence like Ioka Lee down low. And with that block, she's able to not only clean up a little bit of a mismatch by Glenn underneath, but also being out of position. But that can't happen all the time. These young players are going to have to remember when you make those switches, you cannot always rely on her to be there to clean up her mess.
Mackey, who hit a 3 earlier, lets this one go off the back iron. Pulled down by Lee. Different rule this year for women's basketball. The three-point line is now the men's line. The lines have not been changed on the court, but the second line is now the true three-point line. That interior line no longer counts in the women's game. Three-pointer here by Glenn, rattles in.
Skip pass and movement without the basketball, and that's where Jalen Glenn made herself available. So important to keep moving without the basketball, and you like the fact that a player like Goodrich with her head up, finding an open player, and K-State finally gets a 3 on the board.
Top-rated player in the state of Missouri was Jalen Glenn, number 6 wing in the nation.
One of the things Jeff Mittie talked about with Jalen Glenn at Big 12 Media Day was the fact that she's also willing to be aggressive. She'll be aggressive in the open floor, but then even in the half court, and we saw it that time. Take what the defense gives you. They're going to sag off, knock down that 3.
Johnson working against Lee. Another block shot for Ioka.
These are the numbers where it's just a mismatch underneath. We said Washburn's going to have to knock down perimeter shots, but they are trying to go at Ioka Lee, see if they can pick up some fouls, get to the free throw line, but she's been good with that block so far.
A whistle underneath and a foul taken by Dollinger again, who took a charge earlier. And she gets another one.
Well, and that was a tough play, but because it looked like the ball almost hit the back of the underneath on the backboard, but they still gave that foul to Chapman for Washburn, and it registers another one for her as a personal foul, but Kansas State's going to take the possession going the other way. 4th
foul by the Ichabods here in this second quarter, so now free throws will be given up from here on. Turnover, though, by Goodrich. K-State with 7 turnovers, Ichabods with 8. That feels very exhibition game-esque.
Absolutely, but we know so much of it is just lineups. It's about who's in the ball game and who's handling the basketball, getting good looks. But you like both of these teams being aggressive defensively.
Sanchez turning at the free throw line. Just be careful about that pivot foot. Now Johnson guilty of moving it, and a turnover by the Ichabods.
But as these turnovers add up for both squads, especially for this Kansas State team, Jeff Mittie knows that he's got to be able to find some guard play that he can rely on. They're looking for consistency, and that's going to be a key factor. So much over the last season, averaging almost 17.5 turnovers per ball game, it was just riding that roller coaster up and down, and who was on some games was better than others. They've got to be consistent.
Lee really posted up deep on Johnson. Easy basket. K-State's offense humming along there.
She has said she's learned to understand when do I dig in, when do I maybe take a beat off and post up a little bit higher. That time got deep, and that's exactly where she likes to handle the basketball.
Johnson trying to drive on Lee, kick out to Sanchez. Mackey able to chase down the rebound. Ichabod's just one of the last 7. Dollinger the other way, leans in, gets her own rebound. And a reset. Again, Lee. Easy pass from Sundell.
And a fantastic entry. The freshman used her dribble, created a better passing angle right in front of us here at the table to find Ioka Lee for an easy layup.
13-2 run, a 7-0 run as well for K-State now. Starting to put some distance between themselves and the Ichabods. Another turnover forced. We'll go to a timeout. The Wildcats have only hit a couple of 3-pointers, but it's been enough as Lee and company are. And a couple of them banged up right now. Savvy Simmons, no Rachel Reinke, but Ioka Lee still the star of the show. What pieces complement her is the question that K-State's trying to answer here. An exhibition play against Washburn. Perhaps over-aggressive, maybe a bit ambitious pass there from Sundell. Results in another turnover. 18 combined turnovers by these two teams, 10 by the Ichabods. And there's another. Sundell gets another steal. And she'll go coast to coast.
And that makes up for the turnover on the other end, but that's what you like to see is how do they respond? You make a mistake on one end, what is going to be the difference maker? That time out in the passing lane, aggressive defensively. This K-State team really putting some pressure on Washburn out on the perimeter.
Short on a 3-point try by Gamble, who hit one earlier. Again, that, as Missy said, 4-out, 1-in look with Lauterbach now representing the post for K-State. Shuffle the feet just a bit.
Yeah, and that's going to be about where she catches that basketball, Brian. She's trying to work her way up the lane a little bit, and there is going to be a double team. There's 2 Ichabods, 2 blue jerseys every time these post players catch inside that lane. And you got to identify that. You got to be able to catch quick without moving those feet and kick it out, find the open player. 2 people on you, someone's open.
2.5 minutes left here in this second quarter. The man running at her, 3-pointer rims out for Gamble.
And a great look for Gamble, just couldn't get it to go. And those are the type of perimeter shots that Washburn has to knock down.
Sundell on the dribble drive gets tied up. Jump ball will favor the Ichabods.
You can see that the freshman's got ahead for trying to split traffic. She's going to use that jump stop, kind of use that step through, see if you can't get it to go. But that's the evolution and kind of the next step to the college game, is that you've got to know when to take that move and when to hold back or find an open play.
Dangerous skip pass. Trickling pass through the paint. Ichabods living dangerously. They kick out for an open 3-pointer. That'll miss badly. And the rebound to Sundell off the foot of Lauterbach. Just before the end of the first half. See if we can hear from Jeff Biddy at the end of this half here. His thoughts on what has been heavy turnover, but solid performance by his young Wildcats. Sundell wants to take a 3. Wildcats are 2 of 10 from long distance.
And Washburn's given themselves some opportunities here in the half court, but they've been patient. You got to admit there have not been a lot of bad shots taken by this Ichabod offense. They just haven't been able to get the perimeter shots to go, and knowing your disadvantage out on the low block, you got to use the penetration, you got to knock down perimeter looks in order to open things up.
Katie Glatzik running the point, senior out of Centralia. And a hand on the hip by Dollinger.
And And this exposes some things that where this K-State team is defensively as well. Talk about the man-to-man, we're switching screens, going underneath, trying to get through, but it also is, for these new players, the speed. It is game situation. You can go up against male practice players, you can get the reps in practice, but it is not the same as having officials and other teams out on the floor you've got to go up against.
Jumper put up near side by Cassidy, won't go. Back tapped out by K-State. They have dominated the glass to the tune of 31-10.
Washburn just one of their last 11, Brian, and I think 2 or 3 of those misses have been down and out, ones that they would love to have back.
Defensively, K-State has been fantastic, but still finding their rhythm on offense. Lauterbach. Shot clock at 3. Goodrich has to force it up. Doesn't hit anything. That'll be a shot clock violation.
Young players, you've got to know where that shot clock is. If the ball's going to go inside and it's low on the shot clock, Lauterbach's got to be responsible. Then she's got to make a move. Whether that or you better find somebody to kick out quick and find an open 3. But these are the growing pains right now we see in exhibition. You'll see it next Friday as well. Jeff Mitty kind of getting his eye on everything that he's seen from this young squad.
10 seconds left in the quarter. Washburn looking for the last shot. Barrientos in, then out. Guarded little 2-point jumper. Will miss, and that's the end of the first half. Kansas State holds Washburn to 6 made shots, 6 of 24. Wildcats hit 12 of 33, but end the first half on a 15-2 run. And dominate their way to a 34-15 lead here at the end of the first half.
Way that you can get better.
The great ones always have that mentality. If you ask great players in all sports, really, they're never satisfied with where they're at the moment in their evaluation of their own game. They're always looking to add something to it and feel like they can.
And you got to be willing to work, and that's one of the things I think you see out of Ioka Lee is that she's never taken a day off. She's the type of kid that you're going to find in the gym, and she's willing to work at her game. She's willing to continue to get stronger. If it needed to be in the training room and rehab an injury that's nagging, whatever that might be. But that work ethic sets the tone, and that's what Jeff Mitty needs out of his really veteran players, is once get the young kids in the gym, have that mentality. That's how this team gets better, how your program improves.
Lee catches off of 1 foot, missed the shot, taps the rebound to a teammate. Wildcats unable to hit the 3. Ron McHenry wanted a foul there on Lee. Sanchez, a difficult attempt, the other end goes.
And that's one thing you'll see from a Ron McHenry team, Brian, is they want to push tempo. When they can get a chance to get out, that's where they can really excel. And he knows with the depth that he's got, especially at the guard position going into this year, being picked 6th in the MIAA, I think that might be a little low for them. But they've got a chance to prove themselves here, especially the next 20 minutes. Make some progress in their own game.
Bentley. Good drive and a kick to Sanchez, just short of a 3-pointer. Ichabod's having a tough time from long distance, just 2 of 11.
But I love that decision by Bentley because she got the ball to the middle of the floor, didn't have the penetration deep, and then you find a player open on the opposite wing. That's actually something that this Kansas State team's got to be better at this year. Put the ball to the middle of the floor on penetration and get yourself deep and then find an open player. Again, 2 people guard you, someone's open.
Bentley trying to work the pick and roll. Jada Moore guarding her and gets it off the foot of Bentley and forces the turnover.
You want to see these young players for Kansas State really kind of apply their own pressure out front. Be aggressive. You got an opportunity here in this game, kind of set the tone a little bit and see what you can make happen. You can create some offense with your defense, another weapon for the Wildcats.
Moore trying to get into the lead. Lee directing traffic from up top. Wanted the ball to go the other side. Fights through heavy traffic and scores.
The beauty of Ioka Lee is her ability to catch the basketball and finish in traffic. You take all of that contact. She didn't get the call. That would have maybe been an and one, but no matter what, makes a heck of a play.
Sundell trapping Bentley on the sideline, and she dribbled it out of bounds. Another turnover forced by the K-State defense.
Yeah, they were looking for the back door for Bentley. It just wasn't there. She didn't have enough room to operate down on that baseline. And Kansas State coming out of halftime much more aggressive defensively. Active hands, active feet, and in the right position.
Sundell, little stutter stop. Trying to go with the left hand. Lost it on the way up. Sanchez coast to coast, couldn't get it. I'll say Lee knocked it out of bounds. Eaglebuds keep the ball. Maya Johnson back into the ball game. Helping out down on the post, replacing Cassidy. K-State will go get Dollinger, bring her in. The Aussie for Goodrich.
And the rotation there with Simone Goodrich, Dollinger, and Sundell out at that 1-2 position, 2-guard front. Not one person having to handle all of the ball handling responsibilities, but giving you some added weapons, especially from the perimeter.
Johnson trying to go up and under. Dumps off to a teammate. Moore blocked it from behind. Johnson able to follow and gets an and one.
And finally, Washburn able to kind of get off the dime and get themselves a bucket. They had gone through a huge scoring drought coming into halftime, and the first almost 3 minutes here to start the second half. But active hands, staying with the possession, and Johnson able to finish. She's got a chance at that three-point play.
Maya Johnson, who averaged 13.5 points, 8 rebounds in junior college a couple of years ago. First team All-American as a freshman last season. 10 points, 8 boards. Didn't play in 1920 due to injury. Missed the free throw after that foul a moment ago on Ebert. Ebert now with 3 fouls. Ebert with the ball here, trying to feed it into Lee. They're given a bit of room, unable to hit the three-pointer. Driving to the baseline. Did she throw it off a teammate or off of the Ichabod? She did, and keeps the ball with K-State.
That's a tough three to make off that catch, but a good hustle play right there by Kansas State. And Dollinger and Lee able to keep that possession now for the Wildcats. 20 on the out of bounds underneath. And here's where execution comes into play. We talked about execution and delivery in the half court, but execution and delivery on out of bounds underneath, these are scoring opportunities K-State's got to be able to attack.
Moore posting up. Sundell thought about it. Instead slipped with Lee. The ball deflected. Moore trying to throw that pass to her teammate, had it knocked away.
Yeah, 2 telegraph passes by young guards out front. You've got to be better in that half-court situation.
Johnson throws up a big bowl of nonsense. That gets ripped out of the air. In transition, there's Lee running the court and rewarded.
You said it in the first half, Brian. Both Ioka Lee and Lauterbach not afraid to get up and down the floor for Kansas State, and that's how you can get some easy buckets. She does it that time with a good catch and finish.
1 rebound away from a double-double is Lee. Goes for the block shot, commits the foul.
There's been a lot of contact for Maya Johnson on that low block, just trying to be aggressive, trying to use the up and under, see if you can't pivot, force a turnover, force a foul. They get it that time. Too much body. That was the call right there by the official. Ioka Lee asking what was, because she had all ball, but it was with the body, and that's where she's going to also have to learn, keep yourself in position. They need you on the floor. Maybe you give up a few of those here and there, especially if you're in help side.
Johnson misses the free throw quite badly. 1 more coming up. How about Lee coming over here to the official to ask what she did wrong? I'm all right with that, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're trying to learn and say, all right, as I get ready for the Big 12 and regular season, where did I make the contact? What do I got to work on?
Well, and I think the part of that is 2 years ago would be not wanting to ask that question.
That's right.
You know, so now you're learning and seeing, okay, how can I be better? That's what exhibition ultimately is about. This is kind of trying to get all of the rust off, trying to answer some of those questions and think the game smart, use that basketball IQ.
Dollinger drive not there. Lauterbach turn and follow, couldn't get it. Rebound fought for and won by Debley. Ichabod's keeping the tempo up. He, despite had a tough day shooting against this K-State defense.
And that's what you'll see out of Washburn. You watch them in the MIAA this year, they will get up and down. They'll run their sets in the half court, but they love to take advantage of that transition game.
Another rebound for the Wildcats. have dominated the glass, 38-18. Back cut. Sundell couldn't quite get the handle on it, but it lobs to Lauterbach, who puts it in.
You got to take the easy ones when you can get them, and that time Lauterbach just in the right place at the right time. But this K-State team getting good movement in their half court, not settling, not standing.
Johnson with a terrible pass, picked away by Dollinger. Jada Moore, pull-up jumper, not there. Nobody to rebound except Johnson. Over midway through the third quarter, K-State who outscored Washburn 15-5 in the second. It's a 6-6 frame so far here in the third. Is Sanchez a hard drive and score? She has 6.
And that's tempo. That's Washburn willing to push and willing to go, and that's the important factor for them. Put it on the floor and take advantage. If K-State's not going to match up and get back in transition, you've got to continue to attack.
Lauterbach calling for the ball, instead swung over near side Sundell. She'll light it up from the long distance, just short. Wildcats are 2 of 10 from behind the arc. Chapman, not close. Debley. And Johnson finally finds the short jumper.
Gamble kept that possession alive, went and got the loose ball off the offensive glass, and Washburn able to finally get one to go right before the timeout comes.
Yeah, Brian, Jeff Mitty walked into the huddle there, and despite having a 17-point lead, as you guys said, exhibition's all about getting better. He said, we're not playing as well together right now. He says you can't watch your teammates play and just stand there. He says we have to play better together.
Well, that's about, as you said, exhibition play. And a coach that has high expectations, a program that wants to have high expectations, not going to be settled with, well, you're up by 20 and just lay off the accelerator. Jalen Glenn off a high screen. Briley Glenn, I should say, off a high screen. Not able to get anything going. Shot clock under 5. Sundell forced to create in the lane. Gets a leader to go.
And able to handle the contact because there was a lot of contact by those Washburn defenders as she went down the middle of the lane. But playing better together really comes down to movement, and that's where this team has stood a lot in this first quarter of the second half. They've got to get better movement on the offensive end, and defensively you got to communicate. You got to be willing to get in there. You got to mix it up. You got to block out, and finally we see them one and done for Washburn by a much better job defensively on the boards by Lauren Mackey.
Globally, K-State's defense has been pretty good. They've held Washburn around 25%. Dollinger hit the offensive glass, couldn't hit the follow, and the Ichabod's the rebound. Truthfully, the issue, as it will be most of the season, is on the other end for K-State, finding answers on the offensive end. And
that's where they were last year. We saw them be able to shut teams down, but when you can't score, that does make it more difficult. And when this team becomes one-dimensional with only Ioka Lee being your scorer, that's when you're going to be in trouble.
Head into a break after stoppage of play. Kansas State with the ball when we return on Big 12 Now on ESPN+. Stars in this league, looking forward to conference play, getting ramped up. And some key notable non-conference games. K-State will have Oregon here in town late December. They'll go to South Carolina, to NC State. Difficult schedule for Jeff Mitty and the Wildcats, and there's some other key non-conference showdowns across the league as well. Three-pointer by Mackey from this.
I think you got to give credit to the Big 12 coaches and understanding that they know that they've got to schedule tougher opponents in the non-con. The Big 12 SEC Challenge does that for you, but that's really just one game. So you've got to look at others to put on your schedule, and that helps. It's a global help within the league. When you start talking about things like net rankings and strength of schedule and RPI, that all comes into play in March, but it starts in November, and you're going to see some really big games early and often.
You mentioned it, the SEC Big 12 Challenge has always been a big one there. Two of the premier conferences in the league. Dollinger, the first three-pointer of the day for her and in her K-State career.
That quick trigger right there from Dollinger, and she's able to get her feet set, just a little bit of space from the defender, and that's where she's going to have a lot of advantage in this league, is she's got a quick trigger and the ability to get rid of that basketball even with someone in her face.
Day for Dollinger shooting the ball, but she's been a factor on the glass with 5 rebounds.
we said it earlier, Brian, so much of what we're seeing on the offensive end for this Kansas State team is aggressive play by returners, and then new faces and new players trying to figure out where they fit in that system. So a Sundell, a Dollinger, the Glenn twins, all trying to kind of find their place right now, but you like a player like Laura Mackey able to put it on the floor and finish.
That explosiveness from Mackey is in there. K-State's been just begging for her to show more of that. She has that athletic ability, multi-sport star from the local ranks, Nemaha Central and Baileyville. Pass up top. There are just some plays like that where it's just a turnover and a brain cramp or two in a spot that shouldn't happen from a veteran like Mackey that have kept her from more of a starring role.
And I think that backup role for Laura Mackey also is there's been times, and we saw it last year even in her sophomore year, where she played out of position a little bit. So sometimes it comes down to matchups. Are you in the right place at the right time? Is it a player that you could take off the dribble and create for yourself? Or are you being asked to match up with someone who's 3-4 inches bigger than you and battle on the post? Those are difference makers of how a player can attack.
Dollinger getting a couple of bodies up high, no whistle. Shot clock at 1, and that'll be a violation on K-State. So just some lack of awareness there at the end of the third quarter. Understanding clock running down, who needs to shoot the ball. 1 second left for Washburn to try and do something here at the end of the third. Wildcats with back-to-back buckets have been able to put some distance again between themselves and the Ichabods. It's a 13-10 quarter.
Strong defensive possession that time by Washburn. They were out in the passing lane, brought a quick double team on Lauterbach, and she really had nowhere to go. And K-State did not, as you said, execute at the end of that quarter and put the ball in the hands of a shooter.
Haven't been many three-pointers, but Rebecca Dollinger, perhaps the first of many. Sophomore sharpshooter helping the Wildcats lead by 22 after 3 on Big 12 now. It's the little things that have been the difference. K-State with a huge size advantage dominating the glass. The turnover numbers have been large for both teams. K-State's kind of trimmed up theirs in the second half. We'll see if that continues. Both Emily Everett and Ioka Lee with 3 fouls are on the floor to start the fourth quarter for the Wildcats in white. Of course, Washburn in the dark blue. And another steal by the Wildcats. Jalen Glenn into the passing lane, finds her sister. Riley on the baseline, an aggressive take, didn't get it, but there's Everett to clean it up.
Got to have somebody on the weak side and continue to crash the glass, and this Kansas State team pushing tempo a little bit on that last possession. Create some offense with your defense. Put the pressure back on Washburn to have to guard you out in transition.
Johnson trying to get rid of it. Shot clock is at 10. She'll take the keyhole jumper and get it to go.
One of the few times that this Washburn postgame has stepped outside that lane. We saw it 5 out early, but then they tried to go one-on-one with Lee. Pull her off the block a little bit. You're going to see that a lot from opponents against them this season. They want to get her out of the lane.
Lee turning and hooking and not able to hit. Rebound to Washburn. Ichabods come back the other way. Shown to can hit that shot. K-State steps out. Now Lee maybe commits the foul. Coming in hard.
Back-to-back possessions where Johnson is caught at that free throw line, Brian. And what that does is that doesn't change when you're in man-to-man how you're going to have to guard that high post. That's going to be Ioka Lee's territory if that's her player. But then you got to be ready to shuffle and move. You got to be able to stop somebody one-on-one. Johnson knocked down the jumper, and then that time a little bit more aggressive, puts it on the floor and draws that contact.
She has 10 points, but has had troubles at the free throw line. Now 0 of 4 with one more coming up for the Ichabods. Johnson, Colony County Community College, the Northwest Oklahoma State College. Takes the second. So 11 points for Johnson out of St. Louis, Missouri. But he clears out. Easy lob for Ioka Lee. 17 for the star.
And an entry pass by the freshman Sundell. Waited for everybody to clear. Saw the help side get out of the way before she was able to deliver. And we go back to execute and deliver. Put the ball in the hands where she can score.
Steal by Jalen Glenn. Sundell looking for Briley Glenn. It gets batted away. And the Ichabods come back with the basketball. This lineup with 3 freshmen and 2 veterans on the floor. K-State continuing to burn through some of their depth. As Everett the other way drives in, no whistle as she tried to get a foul. Occupied's feeling like they're making a little bit of hay, down 21. And a whistle and a double dribble will give the ball back. But more on the depth, let's go to Kelsey Bigelow as K-State looks to continue their depth in this game and have played all 10 players, Kelsey.
Yeah, as you said, played all 10 players pretty comfortably too. Head coach Jeff Mittie says the balanced attack is going to be the strength of this team. With 6 newcomers, guys, Mittie has been pleased with every single one of them, saying they've played competitively at practice. Not only that, but he says it's great because they've all had their shining moments, which is awesome, but none of them have really set apart from the rest of them, which makes it pretty difficult for him, guys.
Yeah, that's true. If you're trying to land on a starting 5 or a rotation, if you don't get much separation, it's both good and bad.
Well, you're looking for competition. You're looking for, you want to be competitive. I want practice to be competitive. I want you to have to earn that playing time. You know, you heard this a lot from coaches all across the country at media days in every league. Is that everything is fine and dandy when we're in practice and everybody's getting their reps and everybody's getting touches, but until you come into a game situation, there's only so many minutes. How do you divide that time? But that's where it's going to be earned. It's going to be earned in situations like this afternoon, where I get a little bit better than I was in practice the last couple days, and then how do you come out of this exhibition game and who asserts themselves? Those are the difference makers, and I think that's where this young Kansas State team with these 6 newcomers and new faces have to blend with your returners and understand your role.
There is a little bit of a cloud over K-State at the moment with 4 injured players. As you see to the right of the screen there, there's Rachel Ranke, Melina Peterson, who's a transfer or a newcomer from Denmark, a freshman that's also had not yet started. She's been nicked up with a lower leg injury. Savannah Simmons, Savvy Simmons, also with a leg injury, has been out. Ranke with a back. We don't know when she'll return. And the other one is Heavenly Greer, who was a transfer from Oklahoma, who K-State's pretty excited about, a 6'3" sophomore post. But Greer late to the party, got in late, got approved of the transfer late, and so far has not been able to practice a whole lot. But there's Greer, who in practice has seen some bursts of really providing K-State with a formidable front line with her, Lauterbach, and Lee. And
that continues to add to your depth, and that's what is going to be critical as you go down the stretch. You know that you're going to have kids banged up. You're going to have injuries. We also have to remember that the COVID situation has not left college athletics. It can still be a piece of the puzzle as the long college basketball season goes on. And so as that happens, depth for Jeff Mittie and his staff to be able to find players to step in and take on new roles or take a bigger role that they were doing before is going to be critically important.
Well, we're going to have to get some big minutes now from Taylor Lauterbach as Ioka Lee ruled to have fouled here on her 5th and is out of the game.
And that's a tough call because that is a bit of a high elbow, but when you're going up against smaller post players, you know that there's just not as much space there. And she's going to have to make those moves with those elbows in tight so you can get to the bucket and finish.
17 points, 9 boards today for Lee, and a couple of block shots. Tie up on the rebound after the miss. K-State basketball.
And it might be one of the kind of the downside of Ioka Lee's game over the course of the past couple years has been the fact that she has spent a large amount of time on the bench in foul trouble. That Jeff Mittie has continually preached that she needs to be on the floor, but then you've also got to make good decisions when you catch, as well as make good decisions defensively so you keep yourself out of those tough foul situations.
Jada Moore foul here on the aggressive take for the get to the offensive rebound. That might be one of those fouls you're all right with here for Jeff Mittie, trying to go after the basketball.
I like hustle call. Hustle fouls are all right. Those are ones we'll take.
But the foul trouble that you were talking about with Lee, that's where a Lauterbach, but also the talk about Heavenly Greer, if they can get her into the system and acclimated, becomes paramount, because all of a sudden that's a third big body to add in there that could do that, block shots, and not have to always count on Lee to be the one to do it.
Yeah, you need someone else that can be formidable on that back line, but then also when they have opportunity can finish and score, so that when Ioka Lee comes out of the lineup, now all of a sudden your offense doesn't go completely to zero. You have to be able to have balance, and that's where also some of these young guards, some of these swing players who are going to handle the basketball but look to be perimeter assets, they're also going to have to be involved. So there's a lot of learning curve here right now for this Kansas State squad and what they have and what they don't.
Jalen Glenn buries another three-pointer. 9 for the freshman. 2 threes here in the fourth quarter.
And confidence boosters for young players like a Jalen Glenn right now. Just being able to come in, even in an exhibition game, understanding the full speed of what Division I basketball looks like outside of a practice situation, that's important.
Now, Briley Glenn, if you go to practice at all, on the floor, that is not a surprise. She is someone that is aggressive. She's going to get after it. Briley Glenn, maybe not as heralded as her sister Jalen, who had the top 50 national ranking, but Briley Glenn, no slouch herself, a top 75 overall player, and willing to do the dirty work there, getting on the ground, get that loose ball, even though the tie-up goes to Washburn.
That means she's checking the energy and effort box, which is what you like to see, especially in a first run of an exhibition out in game situation. That time a little quick on the trigger, a little too fast with the three, probably not the look that they wanted, but you want to see him make plays and do the little things. Yep,
aggressive, not necessarily a problem. Here's the upcoming schedule for Kansas State. One last exhibition game on Friday against Pittsburgh State here from the state of Kansas, down the southeastern part of the state. And then Central Arkansas, and then UT Martin, Western Kentucky, North Carolina A&T. That all part of the WNIT, the preseason WNIT that K-State will be a part of that finishes the road trip to NC State.
You mentioned scheduling a little bit earlier, and I think that was a great move by Jeff Mitty, just to give yourself not only some games at home, but back-to-back games that give you a feel of what some of the holiday tournaments are like, but then also knowing that once you get into the meat of the schedule, you're going to have to be ready to go on a moment's notice. And it's going to be good for these young players in another week and a half to really have to focus day in, day out for a short period of time.
Yep, totally agree. Simone Goodrich trying to get that to Lauterbach. Got her a little bit off foot, off balance. Turnover by K-State. After shooting 34% for the first 3 quarters, the Wildcats have opened the fourth quarter, hitting 4 of 9, including 2 of 3 behind the arc.
That was the pass that needed to be made. Simone Goodrich made the right entry pass at that time. Lauterbach just wasn't in the right position and had her feet set to be able to catch.
Late recognition there by K-State that ball was still in play. Goodrich went for the dive, didn't get it. Jeff Mitty clapping his hands, telling Simone Goodrich, good hustle, not bad. I think he was given a little bit of a hard time about the dive at the end. That maybe shows you were diving for the ball, but weren't necessarily going to get it.
We tell you, it's energy, it's effort. That's what you want to see. That's where that's today's theme. Spooky a little bit on some sense, but then we want to see people playing hard.
Help defense by Moore helps adjust the shot by Glatzik the other way. Moore a little bit too ambitious with a look for Goodrich. Foul committed on the turnaround by Brody. And Burns, Kansas native at the Trinity Academy ahead of the free throw line.
And that was fantastic execution of secondary break right there by Washburn. They got that ball up the floor to the corner, and it dived down inside and is going to give Brody an opportunity at the free throw line. You can see where the point of emphasis, we've mentioned it a couple times this afternoon, but Washburn loves to get out and go when they can. And those secondary break chances give you the opportunity to dive those post players low and catch people off guard. Exactly what happened to the Wildcat defense, and Brody gets to the line and is able to convert.
First 2 points of the game for Brody. So take a look at the shooting numbers today. So you might expect an opening exhibition game. Not pretty. K-State's trying to feel out exactly who's going to be their scoring options without Carr, who transferred out, and of course without Ranke, who was injured. Talking about a good 35 points there between those two. Lauterbach turning and getting fouled in an and one.
Rachel Ranke making 55 threes last season, and as Kelsey was talking earlier in the show, one of those players that played on the 3-on-3 national team, and I think just really found a lot of confidence and groove for herself. So the fact that she is not available right now for Jeff Mitty and is nursing an injury and hopefully able to get back in the near future really does make a difference, I think, for what this team does offensively. It opens the floor more. It's going to give you a chance for some penetration lanes and takes a lot of the focus and the bodies off your post game. When you can put shooters who are gimme shooters behind that three-point line and force teams to have to guard you that way, it really just changes how they have to attack.
Anybody that's had back trouble knows how painful back injuries can be, and that's what's hampering Reinke at the moment, some back trouble. So we'll see if she can work through that to get back on the floor for K-State. Good defense by Briley Glenn, forcing the ball out of bounds. It'll stay with Washburn. You can see the activity, though, from Glenn. Tenacious at times.
Yeah, quick hands by the freshman and not at all afraid to get up and guard. And that's what you're going to have to be able to do. And that's if this Kansas State team can apply a little bit more pressure out on the perimeter with some length and some height, that changes how teams are going to have to attack them as well.
Glenn again gets a hand in and knocks it away in transition. Goodrich finishes on the pass for Moore.
And that's where we haven't seen many opportunities today for Kansas State to get out in transition, but that is created by defensive effort on the other end.
Bit of that energy and effort that you were talking about. Boy, you can see it ramping up a little bit here as the game goes on. Glenn, the other Glenn, Jalen Glenn, intercepts the pass in the paint.
And it builds with confidence. Right now, you're finding some of these younger players getting a little bit more comfortable within the system, allowing it to slow down a bit. That's what happens when it's your first time out, and we've seen it. First warm-up, first pregame meal, first opportunity in the locker room, the uniform thing, everything. And then it kind of starts to slow down. We only have 2.5 minutes left in the game, but it seems like the last couple possessions have really taken shape for this Wildcat team on both ends of the floor because they've kind of allowed it to come to them. Don't try to do too much.
No, totally agree. I think it'll be a little bit different atmosphere on Friday in case they don't have their second exhibition game. Washburn will be done after this, take a couple of weeks off before their opener in November.
Washburn will have 2 weeks off in between this game and their next one, and I think if I'm Ron McHenry, you're going to use that as an opportunity before, as you said, they head to what they call the regional crossover. It's going to be down in Weatherford, Oklahoma. They play Southwestern Oklahoma State to kick it off, but I think these 2 weeks for them are going to be an evaluation of their roster, knowing he's got a lot of faces and a lot of players, a few also banged up, just as Jeff Mittie does for Kansas State. But you take that time to kind of see who fits, what pieces of that puzzle are you going to need for this team to be not only successful in your non-con, but as you think about how competitive the MIAA is.
No one's better to get it figured out than Ron McHenry. All-time winningest coach in the history of Washburn, 22nd year. Quickest to 400 wins in Division II history. Won the 2005 national title. They've won the MIAA regular season title 8 different times. Hoping to get back there again. 7-0 run here by K-State to finish this one out. So a good finish by the Wildcats, especially the younger players that have shown up here. Another turnover as K-State steps in front. Jada Moore will lay it in on the other end.
Jada Moore, Simone Goodrich, and the 2 Glens out on the floor right now. This is a much different look defensively. It's quick, it's aggressive, it's long out front, and it has caused problems the last few minutes here for this Ichabod offense.
19-9 fourth quarter here. A lot of it spurned by the defensive pressure of K-State. That's resulted in runouts the other way. Left wide open, Willie not able to hit the 3. And on the rebound, a foul by K-State. Well, the Wildcats with Pittsburgh State on Friday. We're back on the air again at 6:30. And what we'll see from Jeff Mittie's group in that second game, they'll have a couple of days to look at this film and see where they can continue to work on things.
I think you're going to have evaluation really on kind of two factors. It's going to be what were the good things that happened and what were the things that need to be improved. What we saw happen well, I think, has been that energy and that effort, and also been some really solid defensive stands. And you like the spurts. You're able, we talk a lot about Kansas State over the last few years having those scoring droughts where they couldn't score, but if you can keep teams in big chunks of time on the clock not scoring the basketball, that's going to be an added bonus. And this quad being a little bit more aggressive, a little longer, a little bigger, especially on the perimeter, makes a big difference of how they're going to guard teams throughout the course of the season.
They held Washburn without a field goal for almost 7 minutes. We saw a number of other scoreless droughts in the game by the Ichabods against the Wildcats, who have a definite size advantage. Glenn into the lane, a little bit too wild on that aggressive take, and the ball taken away by Washburn.
goes back to that adage of don't try to do too much. When you kind of keep the game simple, play within yourself, that's when good things will happen. These younger players will learn that. They're going to make that adjustment. They'll have to make that adjustment before Friday.
Goodrich trying to stay with her man defensively, commits the foul. K-State has committed 7 in this quarter. That's well over the 5 bonus, so 2 free throws coming up for Maddie Hutley, who is out of Wabunsee High, nearby Alma, Kansas.
You mentioned the success of Ron McHenry, 22 years at Washburn. But for those in the state of Kansas, he's done it with Kansas kids for the majority of that time. And I think that gives credit to a lot of solid players, a lot of great high school programs throughout the state of Kansas where you can feed into quality Division II success and sustained success for that matter.
Yeah, he's got a couple on his staff. Brett Olsaker, now Brett Herber, and then Erica Lane. And now Erica Yoder. Well, both star players for Ron McHenry at Washburn, now assistant coaches on staff. Have a keen awareness of that relationship with the state. Jayla Moore, 7 points, and a lot of it here in the 4th quarter. Showing some explosive touch here late. 21-point 4th quarter for K-State. Close this one out. Final few seconds. We'll see if Washburn can get a last-second shot off. They do. It'll count for Willie. And that is it. K-State successful in their first exhibition attempt of the year. Final 68-39. And if you, as you said, you're trying to consider what were positives for K-State.
They took advantage of opportunities when they had them. I think in that 4th quarter, this was about a much better effort on the defensive end, generating some easy buckets, some runouts where you didn't have those maybe in the first 3 quarters. But there were some obvious bright spots, and we saw kind of a showcase of what some of this young talent has an opportunity to do, to be aggressive, to be playmakers when they have an opportunity, but you've got to play within yourself. And there's also going to be a message that they know when Ioka Lee's on the floor, she's got to get those touches. It happened early. She had to create for herself a little bit more later in this ball game.